If you love bourbon, if you love whiskey, you're going to love these conversations. So make sure you subscribe to the Bourbon Lens starting now. Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens with your host, Jake and Scott. It is snowy, icy, and all the above from the Midwest to the East Coast. And we are excited to be snuggled up here talking a little bit of whiskey. So sit back and buckle into the latest episode of the Bourbon Lens. We are joined by Whit Hagemann. I'm going to guess I said that right. Boom. Yeah. Money. Cheers to that. Master distiller for ASW, is that correct?
Just distiller.
Just distiller. I like that. You're a man that makes whiskey. That's all we need. We just need more people that make good whiskey. We appreciate you spending some time this evening with us to talk all things ASW. So how are you this evening? Did you survive Snowmageddon?
Yeah. So Georgia did not get hit as bad as we expected. Funny you mentioned master distiller. So I am a distiller who works with a master distiller. He lives about 2 hours north, and he got hit a little bit harder. So I'm actually not even sure if I'll be able to see him at work tomorrow. But as far as Atlanta's concerned, we didn't get as much ice as expected. So I'll be there tomorrow doing whiskey stuff at ASW. So I'll be there.
I'm glad they got the weather report basically wrong for everyone.
Yeah. It was wasn't too bad, but hey, I was all stocked up on whiskey, so we were good to go here.
That was one thing I don't think Scott or I were short on.
I was going to start leaving bottles like out out front in case anybody needed some. Yeah,
never know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I live at a long hill. I shoveled it more times than I care to, and I will probably have to shovel it in the morning to get the ice off of it. And I will just be glad when it's 40.
Okay.
If it gets to 40 degrees, no snow, just have to deal with the rain. It's a lot better.
About a week or two.
Yep, for sure. So we'll lock in on that one. Scott, you shoveled today. How you feeling? You sore, back tired, tense any?
It will be later, but yeah, I was like trying to cognizantly think like lift with the knees, not with your back, and then I just got pissed and I'm just like, I'm tired of this snow, and just started heaving it across the yard. But
yep. The old yeet of snow is always very interesting. Not a huge fan of shoveling. Makes me want to invest in a snowblower.
I say it every year. Right. Yeah. About halfway through the driveway, I'm like, this should have been the year.
The snow shovel I have, I only use to scoop whiskey mash. So we don't really be shoveling any snow down here in Atlanta.
Nope. You just be slinging lemon pepper wings and whiskey.
That's it.
So let's talk a little bit about ASW, right? So Atlanta, Georgia, not necessarily known for being a hotbed of whiskey, but there's been a lot of conversations about what's happening in Georgia, ASW being one of them, as well as Short Barrel and Old Forth kind of coming together to be one. What's it like to be in this southern state actually producing a lot of whiskey that's getting acclaim around the country?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. So we just celebrated our 9-year anniversary. So we've been on the block almost a decade, but just now I feel like we're starting to get national attention for a lot of the stuff that we do. And just to be upfront and clear about what we do, like we distill a lot of whiskey, but we also source a lot of whiskey too. And we're proud of doing both of those things. ASW isn't a distillery that's sourcing until our stuff becomes of age. We are both a distillery that sources and a distillery that creates and distills our own whiskey. A good example of this would be Fiddler Wheated is a whiskey that is a sourced whiskey, but this is cheers. This one is a bourbon that we were trying to make the best bourbon that we possibly could for under $40, whereas Fiddler Soloist, this one is 100% our own distillate. So both of these are kind of entry level for what we do. Fiddler Wheated being sourced and Fiddler Soloist being our own distillate. So it's a little bit of yin and yang, a little bit of this and that, but we don't want to just focus heavily on one or the other. But just being a part of a scene, like you said, Short Barrel, they do a lot of awesome stuff. I really like those guys and what they do. Also, the 13th Colony guys, those guys, even though they're not as much Atlanta, down south, they're good. And even Whiskey World Society, is that who that is? Do you know who I'm talking
World
about?
Whiskey Society.
World Whiskey Society, a little dyslexia.
You got the W's right, at least.
Yeah. I can usually get that part right. So those guys are awesome too. They were actually hanging out the other day and we were all chatting, meeting, but they do a lot of good stuff too. So I think there is definitely a lot more buzz about the stuff that's happening. I mean, at this point too, like if, people start in Kentucky, they can go down through Tennessee, hit all those distilleries, and then come through Atlanta and hit a bunch of distilleries too. So I think we're adding another state to the bourbon trail. You know what I mean? So it's going to be not just Kentucky that's known for whiskey and bourbon, but Tennessee known for Tennessee whiskey, and hopefully Atlanta and Georgia known for the stuff that we're producing now too. So I think we're definitely making waves out there doing new stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, go straight down 75 and just stop at all the whiskey spots along the way.
Stop at Buc-ee's in between, and then
how many Buc-ee's
refuel.
can you hit between Louisville and Atlanta?
I know
Quite
of
a
at
few.
least two. Yeah, there's probably more though.
Popping up, yeah.
Yeah, I know there's one in Sevierville. Got that one check mark because I stopped at it the last time I was coming up through back from Hilton Head. It is a spectacle, Buc-ee's. That is for sure.
It is nice.
So if only they sold whiskey. Do they even sell beer? Do they even sell beer?
I think they do.
I guess I've never made it over to like the cold section or whatever that.
The only reason why I think they do is because I had to go get milk for my child, and I think I saw like a tall guy in there.
At least one.
Yeah, if they
There's
sold
always a
whiskey, it'd be
roadie.
game over. It'd be the next Costco. Like people would be sitting there waiting for the whiskey drops and everything outside of Buc-ee's.
Yeah,
Game changer.
that's for sure. So wait, you talked something really interesting about sourcing and crafting a product that everyone can enjoy at that $40 price point, and then being able to distill your own. So when you all are looking at, creating something valuable, because let's go to the wheated here, just from a, age perspective, it's, mainly 6+ years old. So it's not like some run of the mill cheap wheated expression. It comes in with a little bit of proof to it at 92. And so you're not like cutting this with anything in particular. Why there and then moving to your own? Because your own distillate obviously is unique because it's pot stilled. So can you talk a little bit about like how you craft this and try to keep this as consistent as possible while balancing that with the soloist?
Well, sure, absolutely. So whenever we are distilling our own distillate and making our own products, the flavor profiles that we're going for are not your classic run-of-the-mill flavor profiles for bourbon or for whiskey or for single malts. Like, we're very creative. Our master distiller, Justin Manglet, has been making whiskey for 25 years, and he has designed a lot of our whiskey, kind of giving me the free rein to design some whiskey as well. But for the most part, like, these are his designs. So he has been making whiskey for long enough time to play with different things and figure out what is interesting and what is unique, and just making stuff that he wants to make, stuff that's different, right? Not something that you can get at every single distillery. However, we also noticed this need for just like making really good bourbon at an affordable price, because if you wanted to find something that was, for that proof, that price point, like being a wheated bourbon, at least at the time when we were first starting, like it was kind of harder to find wheated bourbons for a good price. Now there's definitely more popping up. You'll see more here and there, but our goal with Fiddler Wheated really was to just make something approachable, which soloist, I would not necessarily say that's approachable. I would say that's challenging for most palates. Like, it's chocolatey, leathery, thick, like rich, like it's not your traditional bourbon flavor profile, while Fiddler Wheated is your traditional flavor profile for most bourbons. This one's going to be like really sweet vanillas, caramel, and then it just being a wheated bourbon as well. Like, it just drinks a lot smoother than soloist. But this one also, we put a lot of double oak in there too. So I don't know if you check on the sidebar, but on your sidebar, it should either say 25% or 50% double oaked. So half of it is a double oaked bourbon, and it sits at a $35 MSRP. So like, we're trying to make something thick, enjoyable, rich, but also classic, right? Like, we want to make really good classic bourbon along with really unique whiskey. So that's kind of like why we do both things, is we want to do those classic flavor profiles, but not completely have them overshadowed by our own distillate, and vice versa. We don't want to have our own distillate being overshadowed by our source stuff. Like we want to pour our heart, soul into both sides of it. The stuff that we source, we work just as hard on making that stuff as delicious as the stuff that we distill in house. So
this is a 50% double oaked, by the way. So
nice.
It's the wheated went down very easily. Let me just say that as an aside. We have people in the chat, so we do let our Patreon members join us for the conversation. They want to know what's in your glass as we just kind of take a break for a second. What you sipping on tonight?
Yeah, so Fiddler Wheated is where I actually did start. I poured myself some Fiddler Wheated. I also like pouring some of my favorite like bourbons off the shelf sometimes to compare my stuff. Whenever I have an opportunity to drink a few things, I try to. So I poured a little bit of an Elijah Craig barrel proof. I think it was from a couple years ago, from a couple years ago. And then I poured myself a rare character. Peter over there is a good buddy of mine. And because they switched a lot of whiskey, we'll trade back and forth some of our source stuff and sometimes share some notes and stuff like that. I'm also planning on probably jumping into this Fiddler Encore Georgia Oak pick. This one was done, it was picked by Bruzel. He actually just came to the distillery not long ago, and I think this pick is going live on his site this weekend. So this Saturday it should be going live on his site. And he has been pretty good at supporting us and helping us get our name out there, which has been really cool. I know that he doesn't do that for everyone, and we don't pay him to do it either. That's just something that he found our whiskey on the shelf, tasted it, liked it, and we really appreciate his support. So it's cool to have people like that in the industry. I know some people love him, some people hate him, but he does good by us. He's really friendly. So yeah.
TJ's a good guy. Bruzel is a company, right? I think that's one thing to remind everyone. TJ is the character in front of it all, but Bruzel is a whole group of people. Because we met somebody at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, like, we're Bruzel, and I'm like, you ain't TJ, man.
Yeah, I totally figured that out. We were at Bruzel Fest last year, and met Seth, met Alex, met a bunch of those guys, and all those guys are fantastic. Whenever TJ came out to the distillery, he brought his brother, and it was his brother's first time going and doing one of these videos with him, which was very interesting to me. I was like, you guys are brothers, you live right down the street from each other, and he never goes hunting with you or nothing? He's like, nope, this is his first time. I'm like, all right, cool, there he is.
Yeah. It's cool. The bourbon world makes things small really quickly. And so it's really cool to see how all that kind of plays together. The Encore is the one unique one, right? Like it's got a bunch of different finishes. Scott, you've had the Encore, right?
I've got it sitting right here. It's the Encore, I don't know, batch number 25001.
Okay. And then on the right side where you see the hexagon, what does that say?
So it's cigar batch, wheated mash bill, 45% wheat, 7-year, 9-month.
Yeah. So
Jamaican rum, tawny port, white port, amberana, and maple.
Yeah. Oof. So that one was one of my me and Justin designed that one together, but I put a little more emphasis on designing that. Cigar batch was something that I was trying to work at because we started getting all these unique finishing casks in, right? And when we started getting these finishing casks in, we were doing single barrel picks of them, and we tried to find one line, mostly because it's a little bit easier on our marketing and branding team. Like we need one line where we can put all of our finishes just kind of in one category. And we went with Fiddler Encore for that. Encore meaning finish. Thought it made a lot of sense. Like, all right, this is our finishing line. So Fiddler Encore Georgia Oak was the first one that we did. And that one actually also won double gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. It also won best in class for the 6 to 10-year-old bourbon category. So this one, according to San Francisco, is the best 6 to 10-year-old bourbon right now that you can get, which is pretty cool for us. Winning that category is a really crowded category at San Francisco. But the Encore line in general is just an opportunity for us to take that wheated bourbon mash bill that we sourced and play with it and finish it uniquely. Like we see a lot of finished bourbons, but there wasn't a lot of wheated finished bourbons out there. So it was like, we have a lot of this wheated mash bill. We sourced a lot. We're, I think, probably the biggest buyer of the wheated mash bill that MGP has. I think we are the biggest buyer. I think Penelope's really close, and I think Old Elk was pretty close too. But but as far as I know, like we are probably one of the biggest buyers of that wheated mash bill, and we use that for most of our source stuff. So when people are like, "What are all the different mash bills for your source stuff?" It's like most of it's wheated, and then it's the wheated from MGP. But we also source some rye. We haven't sourced another bourbon mash bill from MGP other than the wheated mash bill, which is kind of wild to me. But we make a lot of unique mash bills for our bourbons house. So Soloist is one of them. Syncopation, which is this one. This one is made in house. It's 100% malted Bloody Butcher corn. So
that's the wildest whiskey I've ever tasted. I told you about that, Jake. Yeah. So that was one of, I don't know who sent this, but the 12 days of ASW.
Caskmas.
Yeah. So that showed up, and unfortunately, several of the bottles had been destroyed by the FedEx man or whoever.
Oh no! We were talking about that beforehand too. We actually we made a couple packages, and we threw them around the distillery, like literally chucked them in the air, making sure that everything would survive. And then, like the first time we did it, a few bottles broke, and we're like, all right, back to making sure, because we've definitely had some samples that started cracking a little bit in the mail, and we're like, man, we're not doing anything different, but it started. Them cracking was actually new and breaking. So that was totally new for us in the mail, and we hadn't been seeing it. So we're like, all right, we got to make these like where you can jump on them. So
yeah, it was crazy because it was like super well packed. Each were individually wrapped, and there was no movement in the box. The box was not destroyed. I'm just like, what the hell happened? But anyways, Syncopation. I was like, this is the wildest whiskey I've ever tasted. And I'm glad it survived, because I was like, okay, now I've got some context about what they do, what they, can do with, their own distillery and their own products. But yeah, it was all over the place. But Bloody Butcher, 100% malted. I mean, it was like waves of just like wild. It was a wild ride.
Yeah.
Malted corn is an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's super, super interesting thing. So a lot of the stuff that we make in house. So when Justin first taught me how to make whiskey, this was about 7 years ago when I first started making whiskey mash there. When I was learning to make whiskey mash, he talked a lot about brewing because he had a brewing background. He actually owned a homebrew store. And then later when Jim and Charlie, the founders of ASW, when they were talking about making a distillery, there were people applying for the distilling position. But when Justin applied, instead of bringing in like a resume made of paper, Justin brought in a bottle of whiskey and said, here, I made this. And they're like, what do you do? And he's like, well, I'm a brewer. I own a homebrew store, but I get to mess with all the malts, and I get to mess with all the different grains, and I get to create like unique whiskeys. And I made this whiskey. I've been making whiskey for years. And they're like, this is delicious. You're hired. And then Justin designed the distillery, and we started making all these really unique whiskeys. Soloist being like a 4-grain high malt bourbon with a lot of unique stuff going on. Syncopation being 100% malted Bloody Butcher corn. We have like 4 or 5 more bourbon mash bills. 2 of them I designed, but they aren't ready yet, so they'll be out in a few years. Bourbon takes some time. Since we're only a 9-year-old distillery, it's taken some time for them to hit the bottles, hit the glass. But I mean, we even have stuff like this 8-year-old American single malt. I'm really excited about this one. This one, we just released it this year. I've had some buddies taste it, and they think it's fantastic. TJ actually picked one of these too. So when the Bruzel team came in, TJ picked one of these too. Sorry, I'm distracted. I have a fireplace going, and a big log just popped out.
You can go take care of that if you need to.
Yeah. No,
like we don't want to see a bunch of flames and stuff.
Yeah, no. This would be a bad room. This would be a bad room for that. I would just go up with it. Yeah, we're good.
So, what's the story? So you said he helped build the distillery, the branding, and what's the story with Fiddler? Like, where does that come in?
So Fiddler has a dual meaning. The first meaning, Justin, our master distiller, he's a fantastic fiddler. He's one of the best fiddlers I've probably ever met in my life. He can play the fiddle like nobody's business. He plays old-time music. There's a lot of videos of him playing fiddle. I think if you look him up on YouTube, Barrel Sniffer, I think that's like his YouTube thing, and he's just playing the fiddle for the most part. And watch some of his fiddling videos. I think we probably have some on our Instagram as well. But the second meaning is when we were sourcing stuff, originally our idea was we don't want to just source whiskey and put in a bottle. We want to do something to it. We want to take it and maybe finish it uniquely. Like one of the first Fiddler products we ever did was the Georgia Heartwood, which I have a bottle of that somewhere. This one, we fiddled with it by, let me see if I can get the light. There we go. We fiddled with it by putting staves of Georgia Oak into the whiskey. So we made it unique. We made it different. We didn't just take MGP and put in a bottle. This was our way of saying, hey, we did make this. We did create this. While we didn't make the distillate and start from grain here, we did make this whiskey and turn it into something by playing with the finish, fiddling with blending it, and so on and so forth. One of the early products we had before there was Fiddler Wheated was a product called Fiddler Unison, which was a blend of sourced whiskey and the whiskey that we made in-house. So it was a blend of sourced bourbon from MGP and our soloist, that is the 4-grain high malt bourbon. We used to blend those together to make our standard bourbon Unison. However, that bottle was cannibalizing, that product was cannibalizing Soloist. Soloist was basically just being fully eaten up by Unison. So we had to make a decision, like either only have Unison or split the two off and make Fiddler Wheated and Fiddler Soloist, which we decided to do that. And I think that's the best decision we ever made, because Fiddler Wheated, actually, we were able to replace the bit that was our own distillate with double oak. So then we were able to do 25 to 50% double oak in the batch instead of our own distillate, which I think made it a little thicker, made it a little sweeter. While our own distillate was good in it and it tasted good blended together, I think it tastes way better with replacing it with double oak wheated bourbon. So that's kind of why we did that. But I mean, we do a lot of different things that we fiddle with. Like this one was one of my designs, was the Fiddler Toasted. Fiddler Toasted to me was kind of like my baby. I remember the first time I ever tried Mixture's toasted rye, and I was like, man, that is such a good tasting, like toasted finish. And then every toasted I had after that, I was disappointed. I had so many toasted, so I was like, man, that toasted, it doesn't do it. That toasted doesn't do it. I think there were a few little experimental things that Chattanooga did. I was like, that's pretty good. But for the most part, like I was like trying to find a toasted that lived up to that. So when ASW gave me the opportunity to start designing it, I started like pulling all my resources, doing my research, looking at these different casks and different barrels that we had available to us. And the barrels that we were getting at the time from West Virginia, they had toasting options. So we started getting those. I started playing around with different toast profiles. And then finally we landed on this Fiddler Toasted Bourbon and Fiddler Toasted Rye. These are 7 to 8 years old. They're cask strength. They're finished for anywhere between like 6 months and 3 years, depending on the blend, the finish, the batch, the barrel. But every single one of them like has a almost like this cask strength, rich, thick allocation type of profile, where like used to it, you could only get bourbon like that if it was allocated, right? Like to find that it's like cask strength and thick and rich and oaky and full bodied, like it checks all the boxes. That was my goal when making this, is like I want to make something that tastes like the allocated bourbons, but like stays on the shelf. I think we did that. I don't know if you guys have tried the toasted bourbon, but this one is one of my favorites.
Just poured a second one.
Nice.
In my wee little Glencairn, because I tried to moderate my alcohol consumption.
I've got 4 or 5
podcasts.
I've got 4 or 5 wee Glencairns here, and I'm like, I'm trying to moderate with 5 different glasses.
So as I've gone through kind of what we've talked about, the wheated's nice. It's there. It's an enjoyable kind of everyday deal. The soloist, if I want to sit down and contemplate a bourbon, I'm going to contemplate that guy. It's chocolatey and malty, and it's got layers because it's pot still. It's funky, and I love that. Like, it would make a killer variety of cocktails, especially in the winter. Like that flavor profile is perfect. The toasted, if I want to wow somebody, like I'm gonna pull that guy out. Like, this sits in the line of the Michter's Toasted as well as like the Peerless Toasted, 2 really high end bottles. This is exceptionally done. And I do love the just amount of transparency on these bottles. That's the nerdiness of me. I know Scott probably enjoys that too, but this is 80% 5-year, 10 months, 20% 6-year, 4 months. It's a 51-45-4. So it's a really unique mash bill. No rye in it at all. And then this was 80%, 26 months finish and 20% 7 weeks. And then 1 and 3 char barrels and then medium and honey toast. And then at 120.6 proof, like it drinks like it's 95.
Yeah.
Like that's what I like about this, that it drinks so much. It drinks just down proof wise. So I don't feel like I'm just like getting like blown away. It drinks in a really palatable.
Which one's 120
range.
proof?
The toasted.
What batch is that? Is that 23 double out 1 or double out 2?
24006.
24006. Okay. Yeah. So those first 2 years in 2023 and 2024, when we first started making the Fiddler Toasted, those were, I think they were carrying a 5 to 6 year age statement. So more recently it's had a 6 to 7 year age statement on it, which I'm pretty proud of as well. But yeah, our goal is to just continue to make it good. So at some point we may end up going back down to 6 years if that is what tastes best and works best for the toasted. But that profile I'm really proud of. I think it's a solid profile for it.
What was the one that went into the days of Christmas? Because that was the one I was drinking, Fiddler Toasted, day number 1, which is a great way to start.
I think that was that one was actually a 7 year. So that one was one of our more recent batches. So that one was 7 year. The one Jake has is a 5 year. I mean, even though like I feel like as a bourbon guy and as a whiskey guy, when I'm like looking at whiskey on the shelves at a liquor store, I see 5 year, then I see 7 year, and I'm like, whoa, that is like a big jump. But for that product, like there is a jump, but it's not like a massive leap. It's like a more of a little hop, from
this is 120 proof. 120 proof.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed
120 proof.
I know, right? Like that was the most like insane. I had to go back and like look at the bottle like 4 or 5 times to be like 120 proof. So we have some more questions, and I love this because this means that big stupid man doesn't have to come up with many questions. What's the difference between the Fiddler rye and then I can't say that word. Resurgence?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Resurgence rye, this was the first thing we ever distilled in-house, was a 100% malted rye. Resurgence rye is right now, like the flagship was, I think, 4 to 5 years old, and it was 86 proof, and it was like really kind of like more of a single malt and Scotch drinkers rye, right? This wasn't like a bourbon drinkers rye. This was like kind of malty, kind of playful, kind of floral and delicate. Like this isn't a bourbon drinkers rye. Where the Fiddler Toasted rye, the Fiddler Antique rye, those are both sourced ryes right now, 95.5. But we tried to make a bourbon drinkers rye there, right? Because there's not many rye drinkers ryes out there. There's either bourbon drinkers ryes or Scotch drinkers ryes. So for me, I wanted to kind of make a rye that was approachable for people that wanted single malt and liked more European style whiskey. And I wanted to make a rye. Me and Justin wanted to make ryes that were more American style as well and like more traditional. So really one's like more of a European rye, which really European ryes don't exactly exist, but European style rye, and the other one's more of a traditional American style rye. I think we're going to one day be like trying to close the gaps between like Resurgence and like Fiddler and some of the other products too. I can't say too much about it, but hopefully, a lot of people see Resurgence and they see Duality, they see Maris Otter, they see Space High, they see these other products, and they don't know that those are the products that ASW that makes Fiddler also makes. These are their own distillate products. So there's only a few that were in the Fiddler line that we distilled, which were Soloist and Syncopation. And then all the other products that we have that aren't Fiddler branded are the stuff that we make in-house, which if I was to map it out and like divide how many different mash bills and distillates and products we've distilled versus how many we've sourced, I think it's like 35 that we have distilled in house and 25 that we have sourced. So it's like we still make way more different, unique products in house, but because we go nationwide with Fiddler and we keep most of our own brands in like the Atlanta and Georgia local area,
Yeah.
it's tough for us to get a lot of recognition for those products. But great question about the Resurgence. So Resurgence is our own pot distilled rye that we make in house.
But I mean, it's
Love
great
that.
that you have your workhorse, right? You have your workhorses, and then you, for the true nerdy fans, I mean, we've seen them on Instagram. There's a few of them that have more bottles of ASW than probably you have behind you. But it's like to allow those people to like latch onto the brand and then be like, look at everything that we have to offer. And there's all these different variations to experiment with and to try.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people like that for sure. My buddy Matt, Whiskey Fly, he is like, and people.
That's who I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people think, oh, that dude, you just pay him to do stuff. Like, honestly, I feel bad because we don't pay him and we should. Like, he does so much for us. Like, I give him whiskey. I'm like, hey, dude, here, try this one. Let me know what you think. And he's like, this is so amazing. Thank you so much. Like, you guys are my favorite. And I'm like, you're just saying that because I give you whiskey. He's like, no, actually, for real, I love you guys. And I'm like, thank you. It means a
I was
lot.
going to say he gets a lot of whiskey from a lot of different places, like we all do, but his fandom is very evident. And I mean, it's great to see like somebody latch on to a distillery like that and just appreciate everything you guys do. So yeah, shout out to Matt.
No,
Yeah.
shout out to Matt.
Matt's a good
He's the
dude.
one who set up me and Whit in this conversation, like
He
to make
did.
this happen. So, that's the great thing about bourbon whiskey. He, was like, I was like, hey, I've not tried this. He's like, I'll get you connected. Next thing you know, I've got Whit's phone number, and 2 months later, here's the podcast. Like,
Yeah, here we are.
it goes by quick.
Doing it.
Yeah. So one thing's, as you all look to grow, right? How do you balance scalability with all the creation, right? Like, how do you continue to push out your products that you want people to try out past just the distillery and the Atlanta experience and getting more people to experience the things that you all are creating? Because they're very unique. Like, coming off a pot still, most people transition to a column eventually, but like that pot still funkiness is some of the most fun type of whiskey to drink.
Sure. I mean, honestly, that's the question we are asking ourselves is, where do we go next? What do we do? We have a lot of our own distillates starting to come of age, and we're trying to figure out how to strategize getting it to the people that want to taste it, right? Because it's just one thing sending it to all the local liquor stores in Georgia that we know will buy it. But it's like those people have tried our whiskey so many times. It's like, so do we start sending out, we'll send out this product to this state and then this other product to that state, or do we try to like distribute it out a little bit? It's kind of a tough thing, like, because it would be desirable to allocate it out into the United States, but I know that would only be like kind of a drop in the hat, and all the distribution like headaches that you have to set up for every SKU. It's like, if you guys are only getting like 10 cases of this, why would I try to go through all the paperwork and the headache of getting this SKU and then getting placements? Because liquor stores, a lot of times, they don't even know what they have either. So it's really tough because we do have a lot of unique whiskey that we want to share with the world, and we're trying to figure out the best ways to do that. I do believe that having a few good stores all around the United States, having people like Rocco out in California, that dude sells a lot of our products, and just having people like that are really cool people in the industry. Like, a new one just opened, I think, in like South Carolina on the border of North Carolina, called the Dusty Barrel, and they're like heavily spirit focused and heavily like focused on bourbon and barrel pick. So just finding more stores like that know what they have and know what they want gives us more of an opportunity to scale into getting our unique whiskey into people's hands that care about it. It's actually a middleman problem where we know what we have and the consumer knows what we have, but how do we get the distributors and the liquor stores and the middlemen to know what we have so that they can get it out there. The
Mhm.
awards help, honestly, whenever we win double gold medals or best in class, or with the Fiddler Encore Georgia Oak, this isn't even the first time we won best in class. Light blue bottle right here.
Yep.
That's Maris Otter. That is actually, hold on, I have a bottle of it right here. Maris Otter. So this one we won best in class in 2020 for the craft whiskey category. So the craft whiskey category has to be made in house. This is a single malt, and this was before American single malt was a category or had a standard of definition in the United States. So we made this American single malt. It won best craft whiskey in the United States, and we only had one barrel of it left at the time. So we, did what we could. We said, all right, I guess we're just going to do a distillery special and sell it in house. Everyone come get some of it. And we sold out fast. And now we're waiting for more of it to come of age, because we didn't make any more of it at the time. We made the 12 barrels that we made. And then when we won the award, we'd already sold 7 or 11, actually. And then we had 1 left, and that was it. So yeah, hopefully more Maris Otter soon. But all that to say, we have a lot of unique whiskey.
Mhm.
People know about the whiskey, so we just got to make sure we can get it to the consumer. So doing
For
this
sure.
helps too. The more people,
Yeah.
if anyone watching this or listening to this has a local liquor store that doesn't have our products, just go ask, do you guys have Fiddler? If they say no, they're going to look up their distributor. They're going to see if the distributor has it. If the distributor doesn't have it, they'll ask the distributor to, see if they can get us. If they get us, because we're setting up with a bunch of distributors right now all over the United States, and the distributors that don't know about our demand, because a lot of them don't. A lot of them just see us as a brand trying to grow. And a lot of distributors and liquor stores aren't taking new brands right now, because bourbon is definitely, whiskey's a little bit on the down slope. So trying to find more places that will take us and take our brand is going to be good for us, for the consumers that want us.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And it's going to be a bigger play, right? As laws continue to change for online sales and things like that. So, there's definitely a place, and there'll definitely be a push, I think, to see some of those things change over the next several years. Hopefully, one day the United States Postal Service will ship bourbon, but we can keep on hoping. But, you say Maris Otter, and there's only one other American single malt producer I know that's using that, right? And they're also a craft pot still distillation out in San Francisco. So it's really cool. And that Maris Otter strain, that's lineage back to Scotland, right? So when you talk about pulling Scotch drinkers into American whiskey, that's a great way to do it, because they know that gold standard, that Maris Otter standard. So it's really cool that you all are doing a variety of different things to capture a variety of different audience, whether locally or internationally, with the products you're creating.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Well, Whit, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to get you all in front of more people. And these bottles are not going to last long. These are going to go sampled out to our Patreon tasting club. If you're not a part of that, make sure you sign up. It'd be great to have you a part of that. And look forward to the things that you all will be creating in the future, because I think you got a bright future. I mean, I know it's 9 years in, but I think these are some really good bottles that people should appreciate. Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to the Patreon members for dropping questions in the chat, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bourbon Lens. If you want more exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/Bourbon Lens and join our growing community. If you just want to stay friendly with us, you can go over to Instagram, X, and Facebook and follow us there. Also, our YouTube page is growing, and we're producing more content there, like Thursday Thoughts and 5-Minute Fridays. So don't forget to smash the subscribe button and catch all the content that we are producing every week. And until next time, cheers.